Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, of course, the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Certainly the best I've ever had. Likely will be the best you ever have. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent affiliates in select markets, as well as Hotel TV, same. And our friends over on Chicago Food Favorites. Check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun group to talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, and our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a nice 3-day, 2-night getaway right here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you know the answer to a simple trivia question, if you know the answer, call the number I give you right afterwards. And guess what? You get yourself 3 days and 2 nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, or Scottsdale, Arizona. Here's the question. What city is home to the tallest building in America? That's it. What city is home to the tallest building in America? Folks, if you can't get this one, boy, there's a real problem there. Anyway, if you know the answer, 702-603-1414, 702-603-1414, 702-603-1414. Now, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you that 3-day, 2-night getaway, luxury accommodations in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you know the answer to that simple trivia question, 702-603-1414, call now. All right, much to do about Major League Baseball. Yes, and hallelujah, baseball is back. Excellent. It's about damn time. You know, this is really a great time of the year. Think about this, folks. You've got Major League Baseball in full swing, the National Hockey League gearing up for the playoffs, basketball's playing for all you NBA heads, and of course, the NFL draft and everything else that's going on. And what else do we have? We have college baseball and the Frozen Four. We have everything is going on right now. One of the best times of the year in sports. But we're going to focus today on baseball, maybe a little bit of football, depending on time if we have it, because that draft and the transactions and stuff, all that is happening right now as I speak. So think about this. Those teams that were really bad last year in baseball and those teams that were really good, we're seeing a little bit early on indications of, there's some real improvement with some of these squads. And then again, some of them, you think maybe they're having that proverbial hangover. I don't really believe in that. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays have a American League pennant hangover. That's a bunch of garbage. I mean, whoever says that, I just saw these people on television recently say, well, you know, there's been a little bit of a hangover because the Blue Jays really got swept by a bad team. Well, look, it's not so much that. There's a lot more going on in the grand scheme of things with some of these squads. And first things first, we're going to run over these standings. And Some tell a story and some don't tell a story. Over the American League East, it's the Yankees on top, 7 wins against 2 losses. That's sort of to be expected. Tampa Bay at 4-5, 3 games back early on. Same thing with Toronto, the American League champions. Orioles still at 3-6. And, you'd think the Orioles would have made some improvements with some of the changes that they made, but not so fast. And the Red Sox in the toilet at 2-7. That's kind of the biggest surprise there in the American League East. When I look at this, I say, well, the Blue Jays are 4-5. They're playing about 500 ball. They've got 4 of their starting pitchers on the injured list, 4 of them, and they're still playing 1 game under 500. That's pretty damn good. Now, the Red Sox really have no excuse. They really don't. I mean, they've got plenty of good players over there. And the Orioles, same thing at 3-6. And you ask yourself, what in the world is going on with the Orioles? They go and take the Panda from the New York Mets. They got themselves a cleanup hitter. And they've got themselves some other big boppers. They've got a good second baseman, good shortstop, good third baseman. And you ask yourself, what's wrong with the Orioles? Well, we'll get into that in just a little bit, but let's run through these real quick. The American League Central has Cleveland on top at 6-4 in a logjam, with the White Sox, Tigers, and Royals all at 4-5. Obviously, it's only 10 games in, 9-10 games in, and the Twinkies are another game behind them. But that is going to be what the American League Central should look like throughout the season. No question. I don't see it any other way, but then again, that's just me. Over in the American League West, well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an indication of where things are, because the Astros 6-4, kind of where we expect them to play, just a little bit above 500. Anaheim, or I should say LA, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim of Orange County, the Orange Curtain of Earth, whatever. They're playing 500 ball, and actually they're a little bit overachieving. Again, it's Artie Moreno making Perry Manasian dumpster dive over there just to find reasonable players. They've got some good players up from the farm, but end of day, it's the LA Angels that are probably the biggest surprise here at 5-5. I know you're saying, well, that's kind of to be expected, and you're only 10 games in. But then again, you would expect a team with not so many good pieces of the puzzle, with all due respect. And Joe Adell's actually starting to come around a little bit, and Joe Adell was that real big guy that was supposed to make some big changes offensively for the Angels about 4 years ago, and he's finally showing up, and good for Joe Adell. Actually, I'm happy about that. I have a whole bunch of Joe Adell rookie baseball cards, if you know what I mean. But nonetheless, all right, and the A's at 3-6. Again, it's early on, but everybody's competitive in all of these divisions except the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are really off in the American League, and that's a real head scratcher. Now, over the National League, it's the Marlins at 6-3. Remember, the Marlins had one of the best records in the second half of baseball last year. No real surprise there. The Braves are getting healthy. Ronald Acuna Jr. is stealing bases, but he's not hitting the ball just yet. But I sure hope he does. Again, I've got him as one of my outfielders on fantasy baseball. Right, so we've got to have Ronald Acuna Jr. doing a little bit more offensively, but when he is clicking on all cylinders, he is the best player in baseball. For everybody listening in on WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, we like Ronald Acuna Jr., and we'd like him to really step up and stand out. All right, over in New York, it's the Metropolitans at 6-4, tied with the Atlanta Braves. And boy, the Mets, the way they spend money, I don't know how they don't win 150 games a year. Phillies, just a half a game behind them at 5-4, and the Nats in the cellar, as we expected, at 3-6, with a lot of talent, by the way. Over the National League Central, exactly as it should be, with the Brewers on top, and the Brewers are loaded. If they could get rid of Freddie Peralta and still just mow through the league, something tells me that the Brewers are a pretty damn good squad. Now, the Reds have their problems, so they sit one game behind the Milwaukee Brewers, and the Reds are having a problem in different areas, and still, they have defensive problems. They make a lot of mistakes on the field. I'm not confident with their bullpen. I don't think signing Santillan for an extension, I don't think signing their so-called closer for a 2-year extension, I don't think he is the answer to their bullpen woes. But we'll see if the Reds can keep playing good ball. They do score runs. I mean, they're fun to watch. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz is must-see TV, just like over at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is tied with the Cincinnati Reds, sitting one game back at 6-3. And with Connor Griffin, he is must-see TV. O'Neill Cruz, look, he's must-see TV out in center field just for the chaos that happens out there in center field. But O'Neill Cruz, boy, when he hits him, he and Ellie De La Cruz are very similar players. They both don't have good gloves, but they moved O'Neill Cruz, being Pittsburgh, from short to center. And that is a very different, that's a very different look. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So two teams that are tied up, they have the same player essentially. Cardinals sitting one game behind them. And, of course, we like this one with the Bullseyes, but you can call them the Cubs in last place. And let's face it, folks, the jersey does look like a bullseye. It looks like they're wearing a bullseye. Who knows? Maybe they work from one of those stores like Target or something that use a bullseye. I don't know. But I do want Pete Crow Armstrong to play well because, again, he is one of my fantasy baseball outfielders. And I also have on my fantasy team, I have Shota Imanaga and Seiya Suzuki, who will come off the shelf in probably a handful of days. So there's some very, very good players on the north side of Chicago. I used to root for them as a hometown kid back in the day, but that's another story for another time. Back here with the National League West in just a few minutes here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC Sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Turn it up and hold on tight. This April, the desert becomes center stage for arena-level rock. On sale now Saturday, April 18th. Icons of classic rock ignites the star of the desert arena at Prim Valley Resorts. The anthems, the riffs, the guitar solos, and the hits you know and love played loud and live. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com or scan the QR code. Plus, Bandas Los Recoditos March 14th and Fairchild Blues Brothers Tribute April 11th. Prim Valley Resorts, where rock legends come alive. Be there.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steak. How's the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com. Or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus. Join me and Hall of Fame world champion and all-star celebrity guest for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms. Also, thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, check out the partners page. Lots of great partners at thesportscircus.com. Of course, one of our favorites, Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com, and tell them Ringmaster Sal sent you. Of course, they always get the super applause, and a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, including our friends waking up with us over in the greater Atlanta market, listening in on WDJY 99.1 FM, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. Everybody driving home right down the street over in Auburn, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, all points in between, listening in on WAUD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves, up and down the Midwest, out to the West Coast. Everybody listening in on Highway Country Radio, 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM, driving along Interstate 15 between sunny Southern California and right here in Las Vegas. That's home of the Vegas Golden Knights, the Raiders, and the Sports Circus at 7 p.m. Oh, by the way, 7 p.m. Monday through Friday over on WAUD. Folks, we can't name all these, but there are a few that we get out there just because. And our friends in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, that's home of the 49ers, the New York Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Thanks for joining us on your drive home over there Monday through Friday in the Hawaiian Islands. Plus, everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild, Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent affiliates. Thanks for joining us there. We're applicable. By the way, folks, I'm not reading a list there. I'm just reading it from my brain because I've actually done that thousands and thousands of times. Believe it or not, it's ridiculous. Also, Hotel TV, we're applicable. And, of course, everybody on Chicago Food Favorites, thanks for joining us there. And check that page out. Actually, it's a nice group, about 5,000 members. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, nice round of applause for them. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, at the top of the show, we gave a 3-day, 2-night getaway in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, away. Not Branson. Well, actually, you can take Branson, Missouri, too. It was Scottsdale, Arizona. That's right. So, if you knew the answer to a simple trivia question, Vacation Buddies giving away a luxury 3-day, 2-night stay here in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, Scottsdale, Arizona, or even Branson, Missouri, if you like. And if you knew the answer to a simple trivia question, the answer is something very, very simple. You should know this. The question is super simple. If you know the answer, call the number I give you right afterwards. What city is home to the tallest building in America? What city is home to the tallest building in America? That's it. If you know the answer, call 702-603-1414, 702-603-1414. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you that 3-day, 2-night getaway in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, Scottsdale, Arizona, even Branson, Missouri. 702-603-1414. Call now. All right, so over in the National League West, carrying on with the baseball standings, it's the Dodgers, and then you would say everybody else, but not so fast with that. I mean, look, the Dodgers are playing good ball, but they're not playing great ball. Think about that. Dodgers 7-2, same as the Brewers, same as the New York Yankees, and that's about it. So there's no runaway right now. And the division, although the Giants are 3-7 in last place, don't count those Giants out. They've got plenty of weapons over there, and they're going to get better. Now, the Rockies, we figure them to migrate to last place, where they probably will reside for most of the season. Padres playing about 500 ball. And remember, they've got some really good pieces over there. They have arguably the best closer in the game in Mason Miller. And the Diamondbacks, not surprising anybody. Those guys are good. They're playing 500, just a couple of games behind the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks are playing really good ball. And those teams in Arizona that they've put together over the years, they fight and scratch and claw their way. And the Diamondbacks are very similar historically to the Tampa Bay Rays. The difference is, of course, the Diamondbacks have won a World Series, whereas Tampa has not. But you look at the way the Diamondbacks are constructed. They're constructed similarly to Tampa. Pitching, defense, stretching singles into doubles, this kind of thing. And I like the way the Diamondbacks, Torey Lovullo's got that team playing. And he's a very, very good manager. A very good manager. I don't think Dave Roberts, in my opinion, is a good manager. I think the ownership just keeps giving him great pieces, and I don't like the way that Dave Roberts manages the talent. I just don't see it. I don't like it. And frankly, I think the Padres are going to be in trouble with their management this year. You've got an inexperienced manager, and I think with all that talent there, the Padres will reside somewhere in the middle of that division, likely out of the playoff picture. Because when you look at the National League playoff picture, as you just fast forward here for a minute, you say, well, the Padres are probably going to be in the discussion. Yes, they will. Arizona will certainly be in the discussion. The Giants should be in the discussion. You'll see a logjam for second place in the National League West, with likely the Dodgers winning the division. In the National League Central, you'll probably see the Brewers win, but you'll see a logjam between the Cubs, Reds. The Pirates will hang around for maybe the first couple of months or so, then they'll probably drop off. But the Cubs and the Reds will probably end up fighting it out for second place. But it will be the Brewers that win that division. Over the National League East, there's a lot more question marks, because you would imagine first place is going to go all the way down to the end of the season with Philadelphia, the New York Mets, possibly the Braves. I don't know if the Marlins have enough to hang around, but they will be in the discussion, which takes me back to the National League West, why the Padres may not be there, because that's a pretty tough National League West already, just like the National League East is. And there are too many teams that are going to be with similar records. And then you're going to come down to head-to-head. And so when you look at head-to-head, is the National League East better than the National League West? From top to bottom, I would say they are. The National League West, well, look, both teams have bottom feeders, with the Rockies are the worst team in baseball, and the Nats are actually, over in the East, they're actually pretty good. The problem is they're in a loaded National League East. So therein lies a small problem for them. Now, when you take those cellar dwellers, you take them out, you've got four good teams in the National League East and the West. Over in the Central, I would say you have two good teams. Just being real, folks. And those teams are the Brewers and Cubs. The Reds are still one of those teams that are going to be in the discussion, and so they're going to muddy the water for those middle teams for the National League East and National League West. So it's going to be the Reds that basically will be elbowing their way in the same way that they found themselves in the playoff picture last year. They got in essentially in the last game, and that's just what it looks like the Reds are going to have to compete with. And will the Reds be over 500? Probably. Their starting rotation, when healthy, is very good. Problem is they lost Hunter Green for half the season. And now, what are you going to do? Look, you've got some good guys in there. Lodolo is a very good pitcher on that squad. Very good lefty. I like him. They've got a couple of other guys that are good as well. But I like Lodolo. He's one of those underrated, under-the-radar guys. And I'm sure that some squads are going to be looking potentially to pick him up. If the Reds start to falter, they're going to need a good lefty. And you know who's going to need a good lefty? Maybe over in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays. Because remember, the Blue Jays have four guys on the injured list right now. That means they're going to have nagging injuries, likely at least two out of the four of them through the season. And so they're going to be looking to pick somebody up. And when you look at what's out there, who are the trade partners? Nobody wants to trade with the American League champions because they spent a ton of money in the offseason already. Yes, they did lose Bo Bichette to the New York Mets. However, they have a pitching problem. And, oh, by the way, the Blue Jays have a catching problem too. Why? Because Alejandro Kirk's going in for surgery. he's got a problem. He'll probably be out for, I'm going to guess, a couple of months. And so with Kirk, who is, boy, for the fantasy baseball players out there, folks, I had him all last year. He is a guy that he looks like he's a little bit on the heavier set side, but let me tell you something. This guy is a gamer. He hits, he steals bases. He takes the extra base. He's one of the best backstops in the game that nobody talks about. I don't understand it. I guess I don't have to understand it. But when you look at what the Blue Jays' needs are going to be, look, their backup catcher is just laying eggs right now. Too much pressure. A young kid trying to do too much. So watch and see if the Jays don't make some kind of move early for a catcher. And I would say potentially that you might see the Jays make a move maybe with the White Sox for Curo as soon as Kyle Teal comes off the injured list. Kyle Teal, a very good young catcher for the White Sox, and the White Sox aren't expected to compete for the division. So it would make sense for a team to make a deal with a squad that, well, let's face it, they're not going to be in contention, and it doesn't matter. They're in a different division anyway. And so the White Sox have a couple of good catchers on that team that maybe the Blue Jays will target. So you think about the Blue Jays pitching. Well, they're not going to compete with the Cincinnati Reds. The only time they're going to see them, likely, is going to be in the World Series. So you think of what the Blue Jays' needs are, and they sit at just about 500 right now. And they're a good squad. You say, well, what about those White Sox? Well, they lost 3 in a row to the Milwaukee Brewers. That's the Milwaukee Brewers. And you look at their losses, they're 4-5. Well, guess what? If they didn't play them, well, it'd be a different story. But you got to play who's on your schedule. So these teams, the reason I'm going over this, some teams are vastly improved, some are just a little bit improved, and some are not doing as well as we would imagine early on. Back here in a few minutes with more baseball here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Turn it up and hold on tight. This April, the desert becomes center stage for arena-level rock. On sale now, Saturday, April 18th. Icons of classic rock ignites the star of the desert arena at Prim Valley Resorts. The anthems, the riffs, the guitar solos, and the hits you know and love played loud and live. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com or scan the QR code. Plus, Bandas Los Recoditos, March 14th, and Fairchild Blues Brothers Tribute, April 11th. Prim Valley Resorts, where rock legends come alive. Be there.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven, gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, this segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. Thanks for joining us right here at the Sports Circus, right here out of Las Vegas. That's right, out of fabulous Las Vegas. But, you know, we talk to all of our audiences in all markets. And listen, we have an enormous footprint, but sometimes we'll get local when people ask us to get local, right? Or they want us to be local in their area. So if you have some ideas on issues or whether it's sports and entertainment, whatnot, go ahead and email info@thesportscircus.com. Email your information, your thoughts, your location, what you would like us to cover, and we'll try to do everything we can to accommodate you, your audience, your local audience, and the national audience as well. Hey, that's pretty good stuff, folks. All right, continuing on with baseball, and what I was talking about in the last segment was certain teams have certain needs. You say, well, early on, why does it matter that the Blue Jays have four pitchers on the injured list? And their catcher, their starting catcher, their all-star catcher, is on the shelf right now going into surgery. Well, you think about this and say, all right, they're in a very competitive American League East. And at some point, the Red Sox are going to get out of the cellar. At some point, the Orioles are going to start to hit the ball a little bit better. Now, with the Yankees on top, if the Yankees can't sustain some good pitching, boy, they're just a tough out, period. I mean, those guys, they knock the cover off the ball from top to bottom. And on top of it, their pitching is a little bit more stable this year than they have had in years past. So if the Blue Jays don't find themselves in a stable position, if they fall too far behind, you get to a point where you're almost at the point of no return. And that's the bigger problem. So you ask yourself, what are we doing here? Okay, Toronto Blue Jays, you're going to have to make some deals. You're going to have to do something. And you say, well, why do they have to do anything in the first place? Because they could shoot for a wild card. They don't want that. Remember, they were the best team in the American League all season last year. Then you say, all right, what about the Rays? Well, you know the Rays, somehow, some way, they're going to trade everybody that's of value, and they're going to find themselves still right in the middle of the playoff hunt, and they sneak up on everybody in the dog days of summer. They hang around, and then suddenly the Rays make their moves. It just, watch it, folks. I mean, same thing. Every year you could see just about the same result from the Tampa Bay Rays. And why are they Tampa Bay? There's no city named Tampa Bay. There's Tampa. Do they play out in the middle of the bay? I don't know. No, there's no Tampa Bay. Anyway, I mean, there's a bay, but there's no city named Tampa Bay. Nonetheless, okay, so that's the one body of water that has a baseball team. So think about the idea of the American League East being really a big logjam. Now, over in the American League Central, you say, well, the Tigers should win that division. But Cleveland, remember, they hard charged last year and they stole the show last year. That's it. But the Royals are arguably, maybe, I would guess, the Royals are probably one, maybe two players away from being a dominant squad. You've got great pieces there, but the Royals didn't go out and do what they needed to do. And you've got some quality pitching there. Lugo, Bubic, and a few other characters. I just don't think that the Royals are going to be that competitive unless the Royals are going to have to go out and get some guys that can do more. I mean, they've got between Bobby Witt Jr., Pasquantino, Salvi Perez, who will play first, DH, and catch. And then you've got Garcia, Michael Garcia. You've got four really good players. The problem is there's a lot of holes in that team. The Royals are where the Seattle Mariners were about 2+ years ago, maybe 3 years ago. The Mariners had great pitching, and they had nobody that could hit the ball. And then what happened? Well, Cal Raleigh hits a bunch of home runs last year, which he has not hit one yet this year. And we like Cal Raleigh. But you ask yourself, what else did they have? They didn't really have much. They go out and get a few other players here and there. Julio Rodriguez was not hitting the ball. There's so much expectation on him. And maybe he'll end up doing greater things this year. But let's face it, this guy is supposed to be the face of the franchise as far as an offensive player. I mean, Brian Wu is the guy in Seattle, kind of like back in the day when Felix the Cat as their pitcher. So I look at the Kansas City Royals in a very similar way. The Royals are missing a couple of pieces, and they've got a decent closer. But closers only show the weakness, in my opinion, of the pitching staff. And so they've got a few quality pitchers that will keep you in games. The problem is there's no dominant arm. You don't have the big 1-2 punch. And this is the problem, right? You look at the Dodgers and their pitching staff. Yeah, they've got the big arms, right? And they can hit the ball. And they went out and got themselves a closer. So, and look, the Dodgers are solid. But sticking with the American League Central, the Royals should compete, but right now the Tigers are the best team in the American League Central currently. Over the American League West, you still have to give it to Seattle because they have the pieces, although they lost a couple of them. And you say, well, maybe Cal Raleigh's bat has dropped off because Suarez is not protecting him anymore. I don't know. But it sure stands to reason that Suarez went back to Cincinnati. Maybe that is the problem with Cal Raleigh because he's not getting the pitches to hit. Because they don't have to pitch to him anymore. Now you can just pitch around him. And I think that's the rationale, what's going on with the Seattle Mariners. And so you'd say, well, the Astros are going to compete because they reload it on the fly. It's just what they do. Seattle and Houston, again, will battle it out in the American League West. And that's basically it. When you look at those standings, that kind of tells the story. And you say, well, what about the league leaders? I mean, who are we seeing early on in batting? Wilyer Abreu. I mean, he was really good last year for Boston. He's really good this year again, but Boston's in the tank right now. Colt Keith for the Detroit Tigers also playing very, very well. Colt Keith, a very good young prospect. And then you have Yandy Diaz at your number 3, and this is just in batting average through the first, we'll say, 10 games, whatnot. Yordan Alvarez seems healthy for the Astros. That's what the Astros have been waiting for. And Giancarlo Stanton, believe that one. And he is in the top 5 in hitting in the American League. Now, in pitching, the New York Yankees, with Schlittler, and people said, well, we don't know about this guy. Let me tell you something, folks. If you don't know about this kid, he is a special pitcher. And when he's out there playing, I mean, this kid is dealing. Really. Couple of wins, 15 strikeouts, and the guy will take you deeper into games, but Aaron Boone won't let him go. Like most of these managers, they won't let their pitchers go deep into games. I don't even understand how that works, but they really should. Soriano with Anaheim, or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Orange County, whatever. The guy is just sparkling right now. Hasn't given up anything. He's got himself a couple of wins already, 11 Ks. Tarek Skubal. Well, Tarek Skubal is the Cy Young winner for a very good reason, because the guy is good, period. And he, of course, is in your top 5 in pitching, along with Hancock and for Seattle. And there's yet another great arm in Seattle. They're already loaded with Wu and Gilbert and this kid Hancock, and on we go. Those guys are absolutely slammed. And now you look at the only real arm right now in the Toronto Blue Jays starting rotation is Gausman, Kevin Gausman. And let's face it, the guy's pitched a few games. His ERA, or actually a couple of nice games, ERA under 1. Yet he doesn't have a win yet. He keeps his team in, but the team's made a lot of errors. And I think when you look at defensive strength right now, I would argue that Toronto is at the bottom of the league when it comes to defense. National League leaders, Edwards for the Marlins, setting the world afire. Pages doing what Pages does. 3 homers, 10 RBIs in the first, 9 games already? It's ridiculous for the Dodgers. Ryan O'Hearn goes over from the... That's right, he was with Arizona last year. I think he went from... Yeah, he did. He went from the Orioles, to the Padres. Orioles to the Padres to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So the Padres lose a big left-handed stick, and the guy can mash, right? And he is hitting third. How about Sal Stewart for the Cincinnati Reds in the top 5 in hitting? And he is essentially still a rookie. Juan Soto, who goes on the shelf. Juan Soto is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Still hitting in the top 5. That's going to change over time for sure. Over at pitching side, Bryce Elder for the Atlanta Braves. The Bravos got themselves a good pitcher, and Bryce Elder is Bryce Elder again. Rodriguez for the Diamondbacks. Same. ERA 0. Just like Elder. ERA 0. Cabrera for the Cubs. Big acquisition. ERA 0. Top 3 in pitching. Alcantara. Sandy looks like Sandy again. Alcantara is the guy right now. He and Chris Sale are the 2 top pitchers in the National League currently, even though they're number 4 and number 5. Back here in a few minutes, going to continue on with baseball. Lots more to come.
Turn it up and hold on tight. This April, the desert becomes center stage for arena-level rock. On sale now, Saturday, April 18th. Icons of classic rock ignites the star of the desert arena at Prim Valley Resorts. The anthems, the riffs, the guitar solos, and the hits you know and love played loud and live. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com or scan the QR code. Plus, Bandas Los Recoditos, March 14th, and Fairchild Blues Brothers Tribute, April 11th. Prim Valley Resorts, where rock legends come alive. Be there.
Listen, were you forced into getting a solar contract and now you just don't want it anymore? Maybe the solar company misled you. Or is your solar contract buried with hidden fees? Are you not saving the amount of money you thought you would on your energy costs? Don't worry. At the Solar Exit Hotline, we can help you cancel your solar contract, even if the panels are already installed. Our experienced legal team will review your contract and help you cancel it, possibly saving you thousands of dollars. You got to call right now for complete details. So listen, if you're not happy with your solar contract for any reason, we are here to help you cancel it. Call the Solar Exit Hotline now for immediate options to help you exit your solar contract. This call is 100% free.
800-485-3125. 800-485-3125. 800-485-3125. That's 800-485-3125.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas, here in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items over there. I gotta tell you, folks, it is a nice collection of hats, hoodies, t-shirts, beanie caps, ball caps, sweatpants, sweatcoats, pillows, blankets, travel mugs, coffee mugs, mouse pads, you name it, with the clever Sports Circus logo on them. That's the store at thesportscircus.com. Check it out, folks. Lots of great items there. And, of course, compliments of the Sports Circus. If you can mention Ringmaster Sal, you'll get an extra 10% off your first order. And, of course, we get the super applause. The super applause for the sportscircus.com. And let's face it, folks, everything that we do, hey, listen, we got to pay bills too. But more importantly, we're going to give you some great items. And I'm wearing the Sports Circus polo shirt right now with the clever logo in the upper left side. And got to tell you, it's really cool stuff. Oh, by the way, talk about really cool. If you happen to be out this direction in Southern California or in the Vegas Valley or in the region, you want to go and get some really cool entertainment on. How about this? April 18th, Icons of Classic Rock. Saturday, April 18th, 8 p.m. Icons of Classic Rock is coming to the Star of the Desert Arena. Yes, former and current rock stars right now. Listen, formed from current and past members of some of the most famous rock bands in the world from the 70s, 80s, the Icons of Classic Rock Tour. 2026 features Fred Cosmo, formerly of Boston, Paul Shortino, formerly Quiet Riot, Robin McCauley, formerly of Survivor, Alex Leland, formerly of Santana, and Kevin Shelton, formerly with Journey. Sing along to all the classic songs and reminisce about the wonderful moments of life. Check this out. Saturday night special, $99 per night. That's the Saturday night room, including tax and resort, and 2 general admission tickets to Icons of Classic Rock, April 18th. And of course, if you'd like more information on that, 702-386-7867. 702-386-7867. And the code that you want to give them is IROCK26. IROCK26. And that's the Icons of Classic Rock. That's right, at the Star of the Desert Arena on Saturday, April 18th. Folks, this is going to be one rockin' show. I'm going to be there. I'll see you. And, of course, it'll be a nice meet and greet with some of the stars of this program as well as those classic rock figures. Check that out, folks. The Icons of Classic Rock, Saturday, April 18th. Right here in the greater Las Vegas area, right at State Line, at Prim. So everybody driving from SoCal, let's face it, you don't even have to come into Vegas to go to this one. All you got to do is get to the State Line, and you'll get yourself that opportunity for $99 Saturday night room, including tax and resort fees, and 2 general admission tickets to that Icons of Classic Rock show, 8 p.m., 702-386-7867. Call that number. 702-386-7867, code SPORTSCIRCUS 26. All right. Lots going on here at the circus, and it's been a baseball show, and of course we had to mention something about rock, and I wasn't talking about shooting the rock. No, it was more about a rock concert. Okay, now back to Major League Baseball, and I've got to do this, folks, because we haven't done a whole lot of baseball shows as of yet, and looking at the leaders we already did, basically for hitting and pitching and whatnot, team leaders. Now, this is interesting because the team leaders, sometimes they reflect those in first place, sometimes they don't. And so team leaders in batting in the National League, better yet, team leaders in batting, period. The Dodgers are hitting 285 as a team. The Astros are hitting 282. So the Astros are right with them. Miami's hitting 276. Those guys can hit. And they've got one of their big boppers on the shelf right now, too. How about the last place Washington Nationals, right behind Miami? And they're even hitting better than the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, over in pitching, it's the Atlanta Braves, where they are, when they're healthy, they are stacked in the rotation. And the New York Yankees, with former Atlanta Brave Max Fried, they are, let's see, the Braves are 1.82 ERA and the Yankees are 2.35. The Braves are that much better in pitching than the Yankees and everybody else. The Mets at 2.53 ERA, number 3. The Seattle Mariners 2.72, and the Reds, that's right, the Cincinnati Reds, at number 5. So it's interesting when you look at the healthy mix of hitting and pitching and so forth, you say, well, geez, how come a last place team is hitting at the top? Well, probably because their pitching is awful. But then when you look at the pitching, you say, well, geez, you've got teams that are in the middle of the pack that are pitching well, but that means they're not hitting the ball. What an interesting conundrum, I suppose that is. But when you look at, let's stick with pitching. And so as we see the pitching statistics, usually the pitching will tell the story of what's going on with teams. And you can look at the splits and everything else. I mean, me personally, I'm looking at walks. And the walks stat is usually the one that will tell you which teams are good and which teams really, they need some help. So Atlanta, Seattle, the Yankees, Philadelphia are your top 4 teams, all with a small amount of walks. But here's a last place cellar dweller in Colorado. Now, mind you, they play in the most live park, the easiest park to hit home runs in Major League Baseball. And they are 5th in pitching in walks. They don't give up a lot of walks. They make you hit your way on. And that's one thing good about the Colorado Rockies. Like I said, one thing good, if you know what I mean. The Rangers are tied with them, and the Rangers, they've got some good talent, but again, the Rangers are very hit and miss when it comes to hitting the ball. But I think the Rangers really turn it on in the summertime when the heat starts coming. And the walks are a really good indicator of how many free passes, how many guys are going to score. We think about earned runs and unearned runs. And I mean, look, when you look at the ERA totals, again, the ERA totals, it is in walks, the Rockies are in the top 5. But you look at the Rockies, they're right in the middle of the pack in overall ERA. But then again, you look at the top of it. Well, guess what? We have the Atlanta Braves, as I mentioned. Now, in total hits, it is the Atlanta Braves 2nd. In walks, the Atlanta Braves are where? Oh, that's right. The Atlanta Braves are 1st. They don't give up a whole lot of walks. In strikeouts, it's Houston and Toronto and Cleveland and Seattle and Milwaukee. Now, the Atlanta Braves are all the way down, we'll say they're down in the lower 3rd. What does that mean? Okay, well, what it means in strikeouts, it means the Atlanta Braves are pitching to contact. They're being, well, their pitching is one thing, but the coaching, the pitching coaches are saying, hey, you got 7 guys behind you, Mr. Pitcher. Go ahead and let them hit the ball. Keep them in between and use the 7 guys behind you. Now, that's why the Atlanta Braves are in the lower 3rd in total strikeouts. They don't need to strike the world out, although they've got some good strikeout pitchers on that team. Now, that's a really interesting discussion because most people don't talk about pitching to contact. Most of the shows will be like, well, they're leading in this, and, the Braves they're not striking out a lot of players. Well, it doesn't matter. Look at the bottom of the league. St. Louis, they've only struck out 55 batters. The Athletics struck out 63. Arizona struck out 67, just like Minnesota. So these teams technically are pitching to contact. And you look at Tampa Bay, a very good defensive squad historically. They're right down there with them, right there with Atlanta. And the Dodgers literally sit 2 more strikeouts above Atlanta. You say, well, geez, the Dodgers aren't striking anybody out. They don't have to. They don't have to. The Cubs are right there, 1 strikeout more than the Dodgers. The better teams will pitch to contact. They're not trying to strike the world out. Even the Yankees are sitting right in the middle of the pack at 84. And you look at the teams that are at top, are Houston, Toronto, Cleveland. They have to strike players out because they make a lot of mistakes out in the field, just like the Cincinnati Reds. They make a ton of mistakes out there. So that's a very deceiving statistic if you're looking at it. Now, in terms of team saves, believe it or not, it's Cincinnati that's actually leading baseball in saves. But what does that tell you? To me, it tells me a couple of different things. It tells me that the saves, yeah, you can close the games out, but the problem is your staff isn't good enough to get through 1 through 9. And you've got to use a closer in the grand scheme of things. And that's the one thing I don't like. You look at the bottom teams in baseball that don't have all the saves. Well, the Detroit Tigers are a very good squad, and they are in the bottom. They're in the basement in pitching when it comes to saves. And who else is right there nearby them? Seattle. Who else is with them? Atlanta, right there. Tampa, right there. Even the Cubs, right there. These are teams that have good pitching, but they're not necessarily trying to save the world, so to say. The Dodgers are right in the middle of the pack. And why is it important? Because then we have to look at WHIP. And the Atlanta Braves are leading the world in walks and hits per innings pitched. Yes, they're pitching to contact, but what they're also doing is saying, you're hitting it at our guys instead of hitting it in between everybody. Seattle is right there behind Atlanta. You talk about good pitching. The Yankees are right behind Seattle. The best teams have the lowest WHIP. The Dodgers are right behind the Yankees. The Mets are right behind the Dodgers. The Cubs are right behind the Mets. You see where I'm going with this, folks? And you look at the teams that have the highest walks and hits per innings pitched, these are typically the bad teams. The Athletics, the White Sox, the Washington Nationals, the Cardinals, who are destined for last place in the NL Central. And these are the teams that, well, let's face it, you expect these teams to make mistakes out there. You really do. But the one concerning team near the bottom that is, well, let's face it, there's big expectations with them, are the Houston Astros, the Baltimore Orioles, the Kansas City Royals. These teams are in the lower 25% of the league in walks and hits per innings pitched. That is a problem. So if you're trying to find some indicators in pitching, listen, pitching and defense wins World Series. And look at the World Series last year. It came down to essentially a mistake, a defensive mistake that cost the Toronto Blue Jays in extra innings the World Series against the Dodgers. The Dodgers didn't win it. The Toronto Blue Jays lost the World Series in the same way the Cleveland Indians lost the World Series to the Cubs. They were up 3-1, and they couldn't seal the deal. Too many mistakes. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Sports Circus today. I'm your ringmaster, Sel. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Turn it up and hold on tight. This April, the desert becomes center stage for arena-level rock. On sale now Saturday, April 18th. Icons of classic rock ignites the star of the desert arena at Prim Valley Resorts. The anthems, the riffs, the guitar solos, and the hits you know and love played loud and live. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com or scan the QR code. Plus, Bandas Los Recoditos March 14th and Fairchild Blues Brothers Tribute April 11th. Prim Valley Resorts, where rock legends come alive. Be there.